World Steel Association was created about 50 years ago. We represent steelmakers around the world, and you have to be a steelmaker to be a member. Today we represent 85% ballpark of all steel production around the world. We have 160 members, and our main task is to ensure that we represent and make the case for a safe and a sustainable steel industry globally. World Steel is the focal point for strategic issues in our industry, in particular sustainability strategic questions, environmental sustainability, social sustainability and economic. Secondly, we promote steel and the steel industry to all the stakeholders, our customers, the industry, policymakers, financial markets and the media. World Steel was created initially to recognize the international importance of steel and the steel industry. And much of that still is true today. Steel is the basis and enables our modern society. Without steel, much of our transportation and infrastructure networks will not work, our medical systems will not work, our environmental systems will struggle, and more importantly, our energy systems will not be able to operate. The key task for World Steel is to position steel and the steel industry to wider society within the context of steel as an enabler. It starts at the first level with making the case for why steel is important to various stakeholders in society, to find solutions to common challenges to our industry, and to promote these solutions to society in general. These solutions need to deal with some of the key mega trends that we have to address. Common marketing approaches towards specific market sectors, common approaches towards finding solutions in the environmental challenge, and common approaches to making sure that the markets remain open and fair for steel as a tradable product. Different members will have different benefits and will experience benefits in different ways. But in simple terms, our proposition is the following. Firstly, this is an exclusive network of steelmakers discussing problems that are important to steelmakers. We create opportunities for senior and other members in the steel industry to discuss issues of common purpose and of common interest. Secondly, this leads to a base of practical information that helps steelmakers and steel companies to get as close as possible to best practice. And again, this is exclusive to members and exclusive to steelmakers for our members. And thirdly, through these two processes, we endeavor to find common solutions to common problems and implement those solutions as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We're a membership-driven organization funded by members, and we have today 160 members, full-time members. Essentially, the activities take place in a number of layers. The most important layer is the board layer, where all fully paid up members have a seat on the board, and currently we have 65 board members. Out of the board, we then choose a representative 16 members as an executive committee, and between the board and the executive committee, we dictate the strategy and the direction of the activities within World Steel. The detailed work takes place within functional committees, and presently we have 8 of those. A functional committee could be on safety, or it could be on technology, and some of them have extra layers of activity groups focusing on very, very detailed topics. Members that participate in these functional committees, we find, gain most experience and most advantage out of participation in World Steel activities. In addition to the functional committees, we have another activity which we call opt-in programs, and these are very specific market-focused programs where members pay additional to be a part of the program, but then all research and development is owned by the club of members that paid for this opt-in program. And presently we have one that have been running for the last 20 years in automotive development, specifically for new steel developments for automotive application. We have one running in the construction environment, and we have a very successful electronic university which works on a similar process, developing courses for steelmakers and steel application on an electronic basis. All of this activity is facilitated by a very dedicated and a specialist staff of about 40 people, based mainly here in Belgium, in Brussels, but also in Beijing, in China. I believe World Steel today is an efficiently run organization that provides excellent benefit to its members. A number of visible changes were particularly in the name. In 1967, the association was created as the International Iron and Steel Institute. In 1967, it had a total of 18 members from 11 countries and consisting of 27% of the steel industry in those days, which were just a tad below 500 million tons. In 2007, the association was known as the World Steel Association. It had 160 members from 63 countries, representing 85% of steel production globally, which in 2017 was a tad over 1,600 million tons. So quite a large and a visible change in our industry and in our association. Over the same period of 50 years, much have changed in the geographical landscape in our industry. It has moved from largely Western-based in 1967 to an industry which is much more clearly Eastern-based in 2017, with China, South Korea, Japan and India playing a growing importantly role in the industry. Secondly, on the technology space, much have changed. We have seen the rise of continuous casting, which had a significant improvement of productivity per worker as an effect. And we've also seen, very much in the same period, the rise of electric arc furnace technology, particularly in the United States, which provides an opportunity to reuse scrap in our industry. Lastly, product development have also seen significant improvements over the last 50 years. One of the key examples is the development of high-strength steels for use in the automotive industry, but also in the mining industry, in the railways industry, and elsewhere. And as a result of this, our industry has become much more efficient in terms of how steel is used in application. The one thing that has not changed over the last 50 years is the fact that steel still remains an enabling product and an enabling material in modern society. The steel industry today is the second largest industry after oil and gas. And by the way, if I may say, it is as safe as the oil and gas industry today. We estimate turnover in the steel industry to be between 900 billion per annum and $1 trillion US dollars per annum. As an employer, we employ 5 million people directly in the steel industry or in suppliers to steel makers. And we believe another 50 million people globally depends on their jobs for products made with steel as an input. Economically, other industries do well when steel is doing well. Three major sectors in our modern economy, transportation sectors, the industrial sector and the energy sector, are all dependent on steel as a major input into what happens in those industries. Additionally, steel enables the construction sector worldwide to also grow and prosper. Consequently, all of the value-add activities in any economic system cannot take place unless we have steel as a major input. And therefore the steel industry is a vital initiator of economic activity and growth in any society. Our industry, like all others, will face a number of interesting challenges in the next 50 years. 50 years is a long time, but I think essentially 3 groups of challenges will have to be overcome. Most importantly, because of the fact that steel is becoming more efficient and more efficient as a product in application, it implies that our future demand for steel may taper off at some point. And as an industry, we will need to deal with slower growth on a continuous basis and still remain sustainable. Secondly, we will experience the impact of new challenges in the technological space, particularly things like digitalization as a process, aspects of circular economic systems which will lead to reuse of existing materials will challenge our industry and steel makers in terms of how we are going to absorb these new technologies into the steelmaking environment. And lastly, and probably most importantly, is the fact that steel will have to prove to society that it is an environmentally competitive material. And in order to do this, we will have to solve the issue of CO2 emissions as part of steel production. We are at the moment, as an industry, well on the way to exploring new challenges and new solutions to these challenges. But this will have to be materialized and finalized in the next number of years. Success for world steel, and to some degree also for the steel industry, will depend on whether world steel can be instrumental in positioning steel as an environmentally competitive product. That means we have to convince society that steel is as environmentally friendly, if not better, than most of the alternative products around, such as timber or concrete or aluminium or plastic. And I believe steel is much more environmentally competitive. But it is the task of world steel to position steel into that space. That would allow us then for steel to play its rightful role as a reusable product and play a role within the circular economic systems. And it will allow us for factors such as life cycle assessments to properly evaluate steel as a very competitive, environmentally friendly product. Secondly, the steel industry has to be able to rely on free and fair markets into the future. Today, 1 out of every 3 tons of steel that is produced crosses open water and is traded internationally. And if that cannot continue, the steel industry will not continue to be a globally competitive industry. World Steel, therefore, has to focus on these 2 aspects: positioning our product as environmentally friendly, maintaining free and fair markets for the industry on a global basis.